I still remember the day they called me insane. It was a late summer afternoon, the kind where the air feels thick with humidity, as though the world is holding its breath. My family had gathered in our living room, the walls decorated with fading photographs of happier times. The sunlight streamed through the high windows, illuminating everyone's faces as they turned toward me, a tableau of disbelief and contempt. They were supposed to be my support system. But all I felt was the weight of their ridicule. Haunted food safety? Come on, Sarah, you're better than this, my brother scoffed, his voice thick with amusement. What are you going to do? Investigate a cursed corn dog? I could hardly breathe as laughter erupted around the room, a cacophony of mockery that echoed in my ears, drowning out my desperate pleas for understanding. I'd been blacklisted after the sabotage, my career in ruins. Obsessed with redemption, I'd turned to the dark underbelly of food safety, where whispers of cursed markets and haunted recipes thrived. But my family couldn't see the gravity of my work. They only saw a deranged woman chasing shadows. "Step back or you'll disgrace us all," my father warned, his voice stoic but laced with disappointment. "You'll lose your mind in this nonsense." His words cut deeper than a knife, but they only fueled my determination. I left that house in a whirlwind of anger and hurt, vowing to prove them wrong. For years, I scoured the forgotten corners of the world, mapping territories where the food industry danced hand in hand with the supernatural. It was a descent into madness, yes, but also into a truth that needed to be uncovered. I became known as the woman who dared to expose the hidden horrors lurking beneath our daily meals. Haunted food safety, that was my territory. I investigated everything from cursed farms to recipes that demanded a sacrificial offering. The world began to tremble at my findings, and I basked in the chilling recognition that had eluded me for so long. Years later, I returned home, not as the disgraced daughter, but as a warning. I stood before my family's house, the scent of nostalgia mingling with the acrid taste of dread in my throat. This time, I had something to show them, a burden of knowledge they could hardly comprehend. When I walked through the front door, it felt as if the air had shifted, heavy with murmurs of disbelief. My mother's eyes widened as I stepped into the light, the shadows of what I had become trailing behind me like a funeral procession. They had seen the documentaries, they had read the articles. I was no longer the punchline of a cruel joke. I was a ghost. A living reminder of the very horrors they had scorned. "Sarah," my mother began, her voice trembling, "you look different." I smiled a sharp, brittle grin that didn't quite reach my eyes. "I've seen things, Mom. Things you wouldn't understand." As I settled into the living room, I felt a thrill of anticipation, a dark excitement coiling within me. I didn't come back for validation. I came to show them the consequences of their disbelief. Then it happened. The lights flickered and a chilling wind swept through the room. My family exchanged nervous glances, their faces pale as bone. I closed my eyes, focusing on the shadows gathering in the corners. The air thickened with palpable energy, a presence drawing forth from the depths of my research, a manifestation of everything I had encountered. I opened my eyes, my heart racing, and whispered the incantation I had learned from the cursed recipes. The shadows shifted, coalescing into a swirling mass before us. Faces emerged, twisted specters of those who had suffered at the hands of the food industry. Their eyes hollow with despair. "See?" I breathed, my voice a low hiss of triumph. "This is the truth you mocked. This is the weight of what I uncovered." Gasps broke the silence as my family recoiled. The vengeful spirits hovered, their wails echoing the pain they endured. They were here, in my parents' living room, exposing the truth that had long been hidden beneath layers of denial. You think it's absurd, don't you? I continued, every word coated in a sinister sweetness. I used to think so, too. But the curse of ignorance is far worse than the curse of knowledge. My brother's face twisted in horror as he stumbled back, eyes darting toward the door. What have you done? I watched with a cold satisfaction as they finally understood the depth of my obsession, the ugliness of the truths I had faced alone. The spirits surged around them, their anguish like a tempest of lost souls, swirling in a dance of reckoning. Sarah, please. My mother's voice trembled as she reached out, desperate for some semblance of the daughter she once knew. We were wrong. We should have believed you. But the spirits didn't care for apologies. They drifted closer, whispering the secrets of the cursed food markets, their chilling laughter mingling with the cries of my family. I stood at the center of it all, a cursed crown upon my head, bearing witness to the consequences of their ridicule. As the chaos engulfed them, I felt a moment of clarity. They would not escape unscathed, but they would understand the power of what I had become. It was no longer about proving them wrong. It was about showing them the abyss they had chosen to ignore. The last screams faded into the shadows, leaving me alone in the echoing silence of my family's home. I stood there for a moment, the weight of the world on my shoulders, the darkness wrapping around me like an old friend. I had emerged victorious, but the price was steep. I turned to leave, a sense of resolve blooming within me, knowing that I had finally shed the shackles of their disbelief. Remember, I whispered to the empty room, the truth always finds a way to surface, even if it's wrapped in shadows. And as I stepped back into the world, the haunting knowledge I carried would continue to ripple through the fabric of reality, a reminder that the things we mock can often become the very horrors that haunt us.